All right. Federal contracting, how much is the government spending? Today, we're going to go over some of the top federal spending trends. We're going to look at product service codes specifically. So for anyone familiar, PSC code, often referred to. We also hear about NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification codes. Now, when we're talking about using codes and looking at federal spending, just know that the government can use several different codes to buy the exact same thing, and they often do. So we just want to be cognizant of that when we're looking at the research. But today I'm going to go over, I'm going to give you a bonus. I was going to give you the top 10 product service codes, meaning the industries where we're seeing the most overall year-over-year spending increase, as well as strong competition in a good way, right? So lower competition. And we're going to talk about maybe where you shouldn't focus, all right? So it's a couple areas where you shouldn't focus, and maybe we'll just start with that. So yeah, for anyone, if you can't hear me, let me know. Hey, Dry Creek Ops, thanks for coming in here. So you guys can put comments in as I'm going along here. If you have any questions about the spending, we can deep dive on a lot of different things, and we often do, and sometimes we go down some rabbit trails. But let's talk about, let's see here. Which one do I want to hit first? Let's start with what you don't want to go after. What do you think? I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go through some of the numbers, okay? Now, you guys can go through the same type of data drills that I'm going through. You can use usaspending.gov. I built my own tool to analyze data just to give us a little bit more specificity, but that's all good. You can use usaspending.gov for free and get a lot of great information. I'll share the screen here. All right. Here we go. So what is this telling us? Don't sell food to the government. Tongue in cheek, I put, hey, this is federal food is a bloodbath, but look, the numbers don't lie here. And by the way, I don't typically go into things like selling commodities, but look at the numbers here. Meat and fish, how much are they spending? They're spending a ton, but we start seeing, when we're looking at this number right here, average number of offers for a certain amount of the contracts that the government awards. By the way, there's like 300 parameters of information for each of these awards. So this is the advantage we have selling to the government, right? We know about the disadvantages. The advantage is we have a lot of information that you wouldn't normally have. I know who's buying, how they're buying, what they're buying. And in some cases, we know how many proposals are being submitted for every solicitation. Okay, that's very powerful. And by the way, my name is Rick Howard, former government acquisitions officer, and I own and run GovClose, the GovClose certification and training program and consulting business. And let's get into this here. So this means average number of proposals coming in, 11.4 for meat, poultry, and fish. Fruits and vegetables, oils and fats. You can see here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, just to give you guys an idea of commodities. These are usually going to be evaluated based on price, meaning very, very low profit margins, usually cheapest wins, not always, but a lot of the time. So this is not where you want to be. And I mean, look, some of the insights you can get over the numbers like that, some companies, some people will look at huge spending numbers. I mean, look at that, right? $2.8 billion on meat, poultry, and fish. Why is the government spending that much on meat, poultry, and fish? Well, if we actually were going to do a deep dive, we'd probably see a lot of Department of Defense spending, right? Because remember, every military base is basically a small town, right? They have supermarkets. They have to feed the troops all over the world. I was one of them for 20 years, right? So, they spend a lot of money here, and you could be fooled by looking at a huge spend in commodities and things like food, only to realize, look, everyone's fighting over it. We know that it's super competitive, very low margins, as we can see here. And, it could be, these are the type of things where people start in government contracting and then they ended up like just quitting because it's too competitive. They can't win. And even if you do win, like you have to win massive contracts to really make money. So unless you're a super reseller, right, and you're doing massive amounts of, by the way, this goes for a lot of commodities, not just food, right? So All right, let's get off of that. So federal food's a bloodbath. Don't get into that. That's where we're seeing the highest competition. But let's talk about fast-growing trends. Now, again, so this was based on FY22 through FY24 data, so fiscal year, for those of you that aren't familiar. Sorry, I'm all over the place here with my screen changing. Right now, for instance, we are in fiscal year 25, and we're also in the season known as Fallout Fund season, right? So basically, all of the money that each of the federal agencies get, there's a mad scramble at the end of the year to get it all on contract by the end of September for a lot of reasons. But now is usually a big time, depending on your industry, to get on contract. But there's also, just keep in mind, the federal contracting office is super, super busy right now, right? So when I was in running my acquisitions branch for the Air Force, like this was a nose to the grindstone type of month, August and September. And, companies can get frustrated when they're not getting the responses that they're used to from their government counterparts, but just know that they're really busy. And so hopefully you've been working towards getting some of those fallout funds for your business. Now, let's go back here, take a look at fastest growing product service codes. So based on FY22 through FY24, why am I not looking at fiscal year 25? Well, I'm not looking at fiscal year 25 because it's not over yet, for one, and there's a lag in reporting, spending reporting. There's a lag in spending. You know what I'm trying to say. So the government, I've seen a 6-month lag. I've seen even more. So the government could put something on contract now, and I might not actually see the results of it for 6 months. So I just want to have a more accurate view when I'm giving you guys the analytics here. I'm just going to look at the comments here for a second. Hey, Josh, good morning. Thanks for being here. Bruno, you just submitted your first bid. Congratulations, Bruno. That's awesome. You're doing the middleman strut. I don't recommend the middleman strut if that's what you're doing, or middleman strap, but we can talk about that. I got plenty of videos on it. I've never awarded anything to a middleman, certainly as an acquisitions guy in the Air Force. Just look, you want to have a specialization. So it's much easier to sell B2B or B2C than to the government. When you do go to sell to the government, it takes a long time. So you want to make sure you have your, whatever it is that you're selling, you want to make sure that you are the master of that. You have an amazing product or service. Now it's time to sell to the government, and you have to be prepared for 12 to 18 months. Trying to win something as a middleman, there's a lot of laws and regulations. Just keep in mind, there are a lot of laws and regulations that you might not be aware of that could make that a bad move for you. So I just talked to a lawyer, and at the end of the day, we want to provide good products and services to the government, because this is, our military's using them, right? We want to provide value, right? This is the long game. Thanks, Bruno. Appreciate that. Let's see. Dry Creek. Yeah, the average number will increase as the year closes. That's for sure. Good morning. Thanks for the content. Awesome. Vernon. Thanks, Vernon, for watching. Hair by the Tiger. You're always in here. That's awesome. Sam just dropped 25K opportunities. I'm not surprised they dropped a bunch of opportunities because, as I said, we're getting to the end of the year here. And these organizations, these federal agencies, here's some inside baseball if you're not aware of it. The thing they don't tell you is these offices, in addition to just needing to put on contract the things that they're supposed to put on contract, a lot of these offices are afraid if they don't spend all the money that they're given in the fiscal year, that they will be given less money next year. So now we have this kind of gap. Let's say a lot of these offices may have $1 million that they just don't have any plan for. Well, then they're going to rack and stack all the projects, and that money is going to go to something. You can bet on that. Okay, let's get into what we're here for. Top federal spending trends. Okay, now again, I just want to give my methodology here, right? Because spending, you can manipulate numbers and come to false positives if you're not careful. This is only looking at product service codes. Okay, I'm not deep diving on each of these. I am just looking at the trend. So when I'm analyzing this from FY22 to FY24, I'm looking at the percentage of increase in spending year over year. I'm looking at the competition. I'm ensuring that there was at least 500 awards, because what you can do is you can show false positives. You could show, hey, we have a product service code with huge spending, and then you go and you look at a huge spending increase. Then you go and look and see, oh, it's one of these weird codes like dry docks or something, and there were 2 awards in 22 and 5 awards in 23, and then those are, 1 award for $1 billion in 24. So that could make you think, hey, a huge opportunity here, but in reality, just 5 awards, right? So we want to be careful when we're looking at the numbers. I may deep dive on a couple of these if you guys are interested in that after we get through. Let's see here. We've got, Crypto Chad's in the room. Crypto Chad, you have specialties in AI and coding. Y2K, I remember Y2K too. Yeah, I would lovely to learn more about information getting a contract. Yeah, well, keep watching. Hopefully we can. We have a lot of veterans, by the way, Chad, in our GovClose certification program. We probably have a few people in that program watching right now that have gone on to win contracts and start consulting businesses and things like that. So, all right, let's get into it. So you are not going to be surprised that most of the really fast growing, big spending product service codes are around tech, right? So, but I did include especially one in here that has nothing to do with, IT or tech or software or anything, just to give you some other examples. And I have one in here that I didn't put. If you guys can message me offline if you're interested, but aircraft propellers, for some reason, we're seeing huge growth year over year. So I didn't include it in this report, but that's something else that the GovClose tool, which I have yet to name, so you guys can tell me what I should name it, did turn up. So it gave us some really interesting categories, I guess you could say, for focused spending. All right, so here's one. So ITSM Operations and Support. So DD01. Again, you can go into USA Spending and type in DD01 in the product service code for free, right? USA Spending is free for everyone. And it's going to show you can look it up by spending by year, spending by small business, by different set-asides. But just for this, so FY24 spend, we see $2.17 billion spend for this product service code, which is 38.3% growth from FY22. So that's a large amount of growth. We're going to see other product service codes as we go through this, other industries where we see even more growth, okay? 7,301 awards. Now, here we're also seeing competitions going up. So we're seeing more spending, more awards. Average number of offers goes from 2.2 to 2.3, which isn't a significant, it's not significant, okay? Now, I will also tell you, when we're looking at competition and average offers, you have to understand that all of the awards do not have the number of offers associated with them, right? Sometimes it's 60% have the offers. Sometimes it's 80, sometimes it's 30, right? So just depends. And also GSA, this is anecdotal, just looking at spending every day. GSA, when GSA is involved with the spending a lot of times or the buying, it looks like the number of offers typically goes up. So you see a little bit more competition there. All right. Okay. So what are we talking about here? What is this type of operations support? I'm just going to read the definition: support services for IT service management, right? So information technology, program project management, agile delivery, network operation center. So you can see this is very specific to information technology, but it's very broad because there's a lot of services that could fall under this, right? And I have certainly put companies on contract through when I was an acquisitions guy in here. So this could be, they could have people, setting up a data center, maintaining a data center. They could have, cybersecurity training. There's a lot that could fall under here that may not be obvious. Civilian and DoD agencies. So this does not just apply to the Department of Defense. These are just example services, but I want to give you some examples of what might be included. So ServiceNow is a big one. 24/7 network operations center staffing, right? Maybe even help desk services. Again, I've seen the exact same thing, the exact same type of service tech product awarded under like 15 different codes. So this is just giving you a sample. It's not all inclusive, but just to give you the example. Now, why is it growing? You may have seen our earlier reports, and we have some other videos and live sessions we've done. We have to read the tea leaves politically We have to listen to where the government is going to be spending. We know, you probably wouldn't even need to listen to the reports on government spending. Just know what you know about AI, right? So AI is on the rise, and some of the biggest companies in the world, which are mainly from the United States, are related to AI, IT, infrastructure, et cetera. But what's powering AI, your ChatGPT, is they need these massive data centers to process information. And not only is our government going to be spending way more money on these type of data centers, but commercial companies are making huge investments. So it's not a surprise that we are seeing this type of growth, and it's going to continue to grow. It's a must-have for the digital government. Let's go to the next one here. Look at that. You guys are shocked that that rolls right into data center facility services. You guys could see there's a theme here, right? And as I promised, we're going to have at least one that is not related to this type of work. But so facility support for housing IT equipment, including space, power, HVAC, smart hands. See, this is the thing. You might see data center facility services. There we go. You may see data center services and think, oh, I don't install data, these servers. I'm not building server farms. Here's the thing. You might not be an IT company, but all of these centers have other services associated with them, like HVAC. And that is a good point, right? They have to be cooled. They have to be maintained. There's a lot in the buildings they're in, need janitorial services, right? And they're also going to need a lot of tech support. So there's a lot that goes into this that, I could look at other codes that are related. Maybe I will in another session. But anyway, so just wanted to point that out. And then we have a question: does the growth in competition indicate an increase in the need to help guide tech companies? There's a lot of ways we could talk about the competition. So look, 2.2 to 3. This is what it literally means, is the average number of offers that are received per solicitation is going up. It is also a trend which could, if I didn't have the spending in front of us, we could say that trend indicates that the government is spending more, and that there are more, meaning more on, in this case, data center facility services. But it could also be a trend that the government is going to have more awards. Now, in this case, we know that's the case because I've already done the work for you. We plugged that into the GovClose tool here. But look, FY24 spend $913 million. That's up 42.3% from FY22. So we know they're spending more. We have 871 awards, and we know that the competition is going up slightly. But still, look, 3 offers on a solicitation, 3 proposals coming in. It's not a hell of a lot of competition, guys. Now, there could be some restriction before that, right? This is just a snapshot, and there probably is. There is if I generated a roadmap for this right now, we would know a hell of a lot more. We know who's buying, what agencies are buying. We would know what sub-agencies. We know the exact offices. What officers are buying, spending money here? How are they doing it? What contract vehicles? What is the competition per office? Who prefers small business? Which ones are using different set-asides, so we can look, if you're an SDV or SPE or 8A, we can see, hey, what office should we be targeting here, right? And how are they buying? And what are the steps that we need to take to actually be successful? Example services: on-site support for racks, wiring, power systems, data center cooling, physical security, okay, cabling. So we know that there's a lot that goes into this. And why is it growing? So look, well, first of all, even the cloud needs data centers, right? So, but everything's not going to go into the cloud. And that is just, there's a GovCloud. Some things are in there, but as long as you have a Department of Defense and you have, agencies like FBI, CIA, et cetera, there are going to be on-premise data facilities, right? So if I have a highly classified system and I have just a limited number of folks that are going to have access to that, I don't want to put it in the cloud. It increases the risk, right? So you're going to always have on-prem, at least for the foreseeable future. So you have these type of things everywhere. Let's go take a look at the next one. All right, software as a service. So a lot of you have probably heard of software as a service. If not, I used to sell this type of product for one of my clients. Software as a service is actually, think about it this way. If I have a software tool you're using, you might be using Microsoft, Outlook or something. I might be selling a software tool that gives you a command and control function. If I'm talking Department of Defense, or maybe even something simple like some type of AI tool. But software as a service really just means that the government or whoever's buying it is buying it in licenses, and it's usually an annual license. So I might sell you my software tool and it might cost you $10,000 a year, right, for one license. So that would be considered a software as a service, and it would be an annual license. I might sell it to you for 3 years for, a little bit of a discount, 25 grand for a 3-year license. That would be just an example. There's lots of examples here. Let's see here. This is your writing custom private AI interfaces. It's very helpful. No, I appreciate that. No, I'm glad. Hopefully this is helpful, guys. And, if you have other things you want me to look at in future live episodes, I absolutely will. Hopefully I touch on something that will make sense for you in this one. So if we, hold on a second, I'm going to add that back to the stage. All right. Software as a service, business applications. So I kind of went over what SaaS is, often referred to as SaaS. Here are the key metrics. FY24, $6.2 billion spent. FY22, $4.1 billion spent. So FY24 awards, we have 12,118. Average number of offers is up from 2 to 2.2, not a hell of a lot. And then, it's giving you some example services I already did too, Salesforce, Workday, HR. I mean, look, SaaS could be used for anything. And a lot of companies really love SaaS because it gives you recurring revenue. That's really the key there. We all love recurring revenue. Next is IT management support. Guys, these are all related. Consulting services for enterprise architect, IT financial management, and strategic planning. Now, I will also say that if the government views IT management support as consulting, then there's going to be extra scrutiny on it, just because we know that DOGE and some of the federal initiatives were being a little bit critical of the consulting businesses that selling to the government, meaning the government buying consulting services. So they do have some extra hoops to jump through, but just taking and this is probably why, look at the spending. This is probably why they're looking hard at it. $3.9 billion spent in FY24, 76% growth rate. Blah, I can't talk. Growth rate. 3,612 awards. CIO mandates for IT standardizations, performance stability. Look, no matter what the government forecasts, we know that security is driving a lot. I mean, the security requirements for all of these things that are going into the cloud, and even companies that aren't necessarily tech focused, things like CMMC, which is basically a list of controls, security controls that we have to adhere to. These are starting to apply to businesses, especially selling to the DoD. So, and the federal agencies, especially, it's kind of an oxymoron going on here where we have, hey, we're going to reduce the amount of spending. We are going to, we're going to reduce we don't want as many consulting firms on contract with the government, or we're going to scrutinize that. But at the same time, a lot of these federal agencies went through a riff where they lost thousands of people. So they basically have more work to do with less people. And the way the government does that is they contract it out, and they're going to continue to do that in the future here. So this is just giving you an example. Some of the services, planning, portfolio management, road mapping. I mean, I've put certainly firms that would provide, I guess, what you'd call IT consulting services on contract. I was a program manager, so my contracting officer would put them on contract. But a lot of times they would help you with planning. They might help you with doing things. We had several on contract to do we were looking at a military weapon system, and we were in the assessment phase. Like, we were assessing, do we need to replace this weapon system? So I would put people on contract to help me with some of that work. The statistical and technical work. All right, application development support, DA01. So FY24, 20.7 billion, up from 12.7 billion in FY22. Highest volume, 39,247 awards. Average offers are up 2.7 to 3. So this is kind of a trend, right? So we're seeing that the spending's going up, and we're also seeing, for the most part, the average number of offers is going up. It's kind of to be expected. So there's a lot of competition in this space. The key really is finding a niche. So I've worked with several companies that have been really successful here. Some will just focus on subcontracting. Some are focused on, maybe just providing, a specific service like penetration testing or something like protecting data at rest. Like, figure out what your niche is and establish yourself there. But if you're presenting yourself as, I can do everything within the application development support bucket, and I'm kind of giving you cybersecurity examples, like, you're not going to resonate, right? What kind of application development support are you providing? Here they're giving example. These are kind of buzzwords, honestly, and they go DevSecOps. System modernization is absolutely a thing, and the government spends tons of money on it, and we're behind, right? You've probably heard the stories of, the US government is, operating on computers and systems that are long since considered antiquated, right? You talk to some people in the government, they're like, hey, I spend the first 20 minutes of my day just trying to get my computer to turn on and run the way it's supposed to. There's a lot of reasons for that. Acquisitions is slow. And that's mainly one of them. Another is there are a lot of security parameters, right? So we need to just keep that in mind. Massive digital transformation across federal agencies is definitely creating this demand. So whether they're modernizing systems, or they're moving to the cloud, or they're trying to pick up some AI tools that'll help them, kind of get to this century and go faster, we're going to see it's going to continue to increase spending here. One thing you may see, and I didn't deep dive on any of these, I'm not giving you a roadmap for each, I'm just showing you the trends. Other transaction authority, there are some mechanisms that especially the DoD is using to streamline how fast they can go, especially with some new applications that are being developed, right? So you may see some speed there that wasn't there before. Local database support. This is an interesting one. So I mentioned that a lot of the agencies are going to have on-premise data centers, right? They just are. Some of them, everything's not going to the cloud. A lot of reason for that. Usually it's security, maybe a classified network. And you can see here, this includes things like admin, middleware, integration, application data sharing. But $657 million spend with an 81% growth rate, up from FY22. 817 awards, offers up. Seeing a trend there, right? So competition's going up, as it probably should. It really depends, right? So if you catch it at the right time and the government is just spending, the spending increases massively one year, you can get in there, and some of your competitors might not even know what's going on yet, but it doesn't take long for everybody to jump into the game. Again, these aren't like crazy. We saw some areas before where I was telling you to stay away from. Remember the bloodbath? Where was that? Federal food. Don't sell food to the government. That's a bloodbath. Just compare this, right? Yeah, $2.8 billion spent on meat and poultry, but average number of offers 11.4, and it's going to come down to price. So more competition, less money. Versus here, we've got 2 to 2.1. And again, that's just a sample, right? Because every contract award does not have the number of offers, right? So I want to make that very clear. Do you have data on fuel contracts? I do, but I don't have it in this presentation. So we can talk about that in the future. Now, it's giving you some examples here, just like before. SQL, Postgres, a lot of database specific, like Oracle, MongoDB. MarkLogic's not in there, but MarkLogic's also a data platform that's used in a lot of government agencies, AFRL, et cetera. There's a lot that goes into that, right? Making sure everything's working solid for the government. Network, God, these are all related. You see where the trends are going, right? I can tell you guys what's not in here, right? You can probably guess. How many people think, before I get through this presentation, that there's going to be a slide in here on solar or wind energy? I'll let you tell me in the comments if you think you're going to see we're going to see an increase in solar and wind spending over the next couple of years, and what I've seen here in the past. Okay, network infrastructure support. So yeah, services, again, a lot of these they overlap, right? But wireless networks, infrastructure, on-prem telecom systems, again, very digital related here, some overlap. And by the way, I would also imagine a lot of the contracts that we would see, I wouldn't be surprised if I could take one contract and award it under almost any of these codes that we just saw. Just throwing that out there. So just understand, we're looking at a sample size here. We're looking at a specific code. But look, 2.6 billion up from FY22, 1.3 billion. 3,600 awards plus average number of offers down. Average number of offers down. Damn, 2.7 to 2.6. Well, all right. Network infrastructure, guys. A little bit less competition. But here's the thing, right? Without doing a roadmap on this, we could take those numbers and go, hey, this is where I want to go. What that number could mean is that the government's actually consolidating how they buy network infrastructure support into different contract vehicles, which you're not on, right? And so that might go down. That might have gone down because they put it all on NASA SOUP or, one of the GSA schedules. So we need to understand that we can look at these trends, but we have to do more research to really understand what we're looking at here, so we can make, especially if you're a business owner or if you're, an account executive, if you're trying to make a logical decision on, an area to focus on or what your next steps are, you have to take these are good indicators, but then we have to really, pull the covers back and see what's going on underneath here. So it's giving you some examples: network wiring, mobile communication. But yeah, zero trust architecture, 5G related infrastructure. I mean, we've been increasing that for the past few years here, and that's looks like it's going to continue to increase. We'll see. Man, what were you expecting? It's not solar or wind. High performance computing support. This ties into I did a deep dive earlier. I think it was last week, on these data centers, right? And the spending, and like really went in deep on who's doing the spending, how they're doing the spending, the contract vehicles, the competition, the offices, the exact offices. We can look at the time of year that the government's putting a lot of this on on contract. And by the way, this time of year is when a lot of the pet projects go on contract. It's the end of the fiscal year, and they're scrambling to put all that money on contract. So we had 402 billion spent in FY24, 83% growth rate, 430 awards. Competition, look at that. That went up from 1.9, which is low, to 3.4. That is a significant increase in competition. So just know that, I guess. Example services, AI model training, scientific simulation environments, HPC clusters. Yeah, look, national labs, energy, and defense are all spending money here. We're going to continue to see increases in spending. Carol, you're welcome. Let's see, solar and wind. I'm just looking at some of the comments here, guys. Both solar and wind, potentially water combined. I don't know what that means. I do know that the administration has signaled that they want to spend less on those type of energy areas, and more on traditional. So we'll see what happens. All right, man, I swear there's going to be one in here that is not related to like IT, that is not data centric, but it's not this one. Cloud compute support. Well, what does that mean, right? Think about the cloud, meaning that I don't have to have my own data center in my government office. I don't have to have an on-prem data platform. I can now dump all my data into the cloud, or my tool is in the cloud, and I can access that securely. But I will say this, like, especially for the consultants out there, for the people that are maybe helping companies sell to the government, cybersecurity especially around cloud, is a huge area where if you specialize in that and you understand it, you can make a lot of money and you can help a lot of companies sell to the government. FedRAMP is a huge piece. It is actually mentioned down here. But let's talk about what this code is, and then I'll get into like FedRAMP and some offshoots. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, delivery, cloud, compute, storage. So containerized environment. So essentially any of the work that is going around hosting in the cloud, making your software work in the cloud, securing it in the cloud, the infrastructure. Look, from up from 308 million in 22 to 795 million in 24, 157% growth. We have 1,015 awards in FY24. And we have a slight increase in competition from 2.7 to 2.8, meaning this is the average number of proposals that came in per solicitation, understanding that that could be a restricted bidding environment. So again, we have to do more research on any of these. And it's giving you examples. You've heard of AWS, GovCloud, probably. Now, Azure. But now here's what I was talking about, FedRAMP. This is the good and the bad for companies. Any company, because since I retired from being an acquisitions officer in the Air Force, I've run a consulting firm and training in government contracting since 2019. I don't know how many companies I've talked to that have a software tool or something that they want to, hey, this is perfect for the government. We can put it in the cloud, they can access it. But what they don't realize is there's a few things here if you are in that software game, and it's a couple challenges. One is, if you asked me even 10 years ago, what's the biggest challenge for a company that has a great software tool? I would tell you, can I make sure that software tool can actually exist on a government network? In order for any software tool to on-prem or in the cloud, for it to live there, you need something called an approval to operate. It is a painful, long process. And what they're doing is they're making sure that your tool, your software, adheres to all of the security controls that are required. And it could be hundreds of these security controls. Often, my experience, I'm going back, often these software tools couldn't meet those security controls. Now, fast forward, if you want to host something in the cloud, more and more, you need something that is called FedRAMP certification. Now, this irritates companies because it could cost a couple $100,000 to get FedRAMP certified. And that FedRAMP certification is ensuring that you are meeting all of the controls. Yeah, I think Crypto Cloud said $100,000. I talked to a company that spent $200,000 on that recently. Oh yeah, you put $100,000 to $5 million. That's good insight. I appreciate that, Chad. I mean, look, it's a real challenge for a lot of businesses. Now, here's the thing. It's also a real opportunity for anyone that can help a company get to FedRAMP, right? Making sure that their product, their tool actually can meet a lot of the controls, that you're cooking the security in from the start. A lot of big companies are resistant to FedRAMP because they didn't build their tool 10, 15, 20 years ago with, a lot of this in mind. And now to actually get it to meet those requirements is a big, hard lift. And what are the guarantees that the government's going to buy from you? So you kind of got to make sure that you have, the government has to sponsor you too in a lot of cases here, right, to actually get the certification. But there is an opportunity for FedRAMP and CMMC for SMEs, for consultants, to help companies with that process. So that's my only point there. Let's move on. Storage support services. Rick, when are you going to give me something that doesn't have anything to do with data? Look, there's a reason that the trends are going this way, right? And this is why we look at the data. We want to know what the government's buying. What are they going to increase? We know they're going to increase in all these areas. And historically, this is where we're seeing this large percentage of growth. So we should have, look, if we only had one or two of these in common, you could say, yeah, maybe, Rick's just picking and choosing. But we're seeing the same thing over and over again here. Okay. 211 million spent in FY24. Now, that's not as much spending, by the way, as another category. So we got to just keep that in mind, right? So when we see something like 425% growth, just realize that, that just means that this could also be, I'd have to look at this. This could be a new product service code. And this is also something, guys, to realize. If you're if you punch a product service code into whatever tool you're using for data analytics, like USA Spending's for free. Let's say that I see a code, and I did this, by the way, like as I was going to put this presentation together, I'm like, hey, show me the codes that like I'm seeing year over year spending decrease. And the ones with the most dramatic spending decrease, those are codes that were retired because the government retires product service codes and will then leverage new product service codes for spending. So there is PSC code shift, right? So if you see decreased spending, first thing you look at is that code active anymore? Okay. And that can help you get a better picture, because you may think, oh, the government's not spending as much on, storage support services. And then you realize, oh, well, there's this new code DK01 and there's 425% growth there. So you see there's a lot to it. We want to have a big picture understanding of what's going on. Competition's up on this one. I don't know that this is a new code. I'm just saying it could be. I have to look at it. Encrypted backup, offsite disaster recovery, storage infrastructure support and monitoring are some of the examples. And by the way, kind of sounds like some of the other codes. Why it's growing? Explosive growth, likely zero trust again. I mean, there's lots of reasons for this, right? The big reason is that everything's going to the cloud, and we're just going to keep increasing our digital presence and the amount of power that we need to fuel things like AI and these other applications that we're using, both in defense and the civilian agencies. All right, here we go. Something that has nothing to do with digital or data or any of that geeky nerd stuff, right? Valves. It doesn't get much more, blue collar, get your hands dirty than valves, right? So code 4820, a valve is a mechanical component for controlling fluid or gas flow. Yes, and they're in a lot of different things, right? Infrastructure, a lot of, mainly infrastructure, right? So look, what are the key metrics? 419 million in FY24, 318 million in FY22. So it's a 31% growth. So it's not this explosive 400% growth like we've seen in some other areas, but it's growth nonetheless. 16, and by the way, look, 16,714 awards. So you get a lot of awards for these valves. They're spending more on them. It's giving you some examples. I don't know anything about valves. If you probably figure that out. I've never installed a valve, and outside of, I don't know, is my sink considered a valve? It probably is, even if it's not. I mean, that's probably the closest. It looks like my hose. So yeah, that's probably the closest I've gotten to doing anything with a valve. But okay, why is it growing? Army Corps of Engineer projects. By the way, if you're doing anything related to civil engineering, if you're doing any commercial building, even residential building, the government spent a lot of money on construction projects. And almost always, Army Corps of Engineers is the top spender. Not always, depends on what it is, but often. So, okay, guys, valves, there you go. So again, this is surface level analysis. This is not, the extensive road mapping that I do when I really deep dive on an industry, when I take a company from what they're doing now to, hey, how do we increase in year over year, see how much they can make, increase their spending, increase their government contracting. But this is just more of a basic level trend analysis. And what do we see? Almost every single one related to these data centers, cloud, supporting these data centers, right? The infrastructure that goes into it, the cybersecurity that goes into it, and then maybe like tangentially like cooling and some of the other infrastructure type things that are going to go into supporting these data centers. It'd be really interesting actually as a niche to see what something like, hey, I provide janitorial services for data centers, right? Maybe that would require you to have a special clearance, like a secret clearance or something to get in there. But I think, if you were looking for niches, I would be looking at what are some of the support areas that aren't as obvious that are going to be supporting these, because the money is just going to keep going up and up, at least for the foreseeable future. And every single one of these, except for one, was related to data, AI infrastructure. And the only one that wasn't was that valves code that I pulled in at the end. And I did that intentionally, right? That never would have came up if I didn't say, hey, I need something to throw in here that is not related to data. I did find a couple others. I don't know if you guys want to see them, but that are not related. One was like aircraft propellers, which which is a weird one, but we saw growth there, and we, saw low competition on. So, we can find them. We saw things like commodities, like I've never been a fan of, because it's usually lowest price and low margins, and I don't know, not as fun to look at the data and think about that. But the government does spend billions of dollars in food, so you can do it for sure. If there are no other questions, then I am going to sign off. What I would tell you is, hey, check out govclose.com if you are interested in joining our implementation program. Put the link right here. I don't know if that's a good link or not, but yeah, govclose.com. Basically, this is a 1-year program. Really, you know what? Everybody in there is just loving the community. We have 200 people in there, and these are professionals that understand government contracting. They go through our training and certification process, and then they are either selling to the government themselves with their own business. They are getting account executive jobs for everything from big defense contractors to, the startups, venture-backed, et cetera. And these are great, high-paying jobs. And a lot of them are also, or solely starting consulting businesses, helping companies in these different areas, which is great. It's what I do. And there's a lot of money to be made there. You can help a lot of people. Oh, sorry, one question here before we go. Crypto Chad, do you think this could be a good focus specialized in FedRAMP auth? Yes, it is. I don't just think it is. It absolutely is. And, I still continually help clients. They'll come to me like, hey, I need, whether it's FedRAMP and CMMC, I shouldn't lump them into the same thing, but yes, I think this is a great consulting niche to be in. And you guys, you can go to the FedRAMP website and see all the companies that have FedRAMP authorizations. I can't remember if I actually showed on one of these my tool for analyzing stock prices in association with this. It's interesting. It could also get you into trouble. So I probably won't show it. Let's see here. Armando, I've been talking to Luke. Oh, thanks, Armando. Yeah, Luke's one of our advisors. He onboards people. Hal's the other one. So if you guys do go to govclose.com, you can schedule a call with one of our advisors. And look, it's not for everybody. It's not. It's a 1-year program. It is, and I am big on nobody gets through this. I onboard everybody. Everyone has to analyze data, put together a roadmap, a pipeline of early leads. I review everything. You don't get certified unless, and usually we're going back and forth for a while. But what the real magic of this is, we're trying to implement something, right? Nobody watching this is not trying to make money. Like, we are trying to get that job. We're trying to win contracts. So that's why this is an implementation program. The real work starts after certification. Our community is really good at going out there and working with you, showing, hey, this is how we get clients. This is how we win contracts. This is how we get that job. And I work one-on-one with everybody and in groups, and the community, it actually has risen up, and they help each other. So I love being in there. Feel free to send me any notes on something you'd like to see in the future, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
After going through the course, I was able to land a client that pays me a monthly retainer to actually help them develop their business and go after these federal contracts.
I was able to get a consulting gig with a software company that currently works with the intelligence community.
Within 2 months, I had my first client. So the initial contract was for a 3-month contract for $4,000 a month.
So 27 years old, you've never worked in government contracting. You've never worked as a consultant, and you just closed your first deal. Is that correct?
That's fair. And I've got a couple small projects on the side as well. So definitely something, probably my best investment I've made all year.
A cold call landed a 9-figure government contract.
Start a consulting business and a high salaried position as a account executive in public sales. So you're doing both of those things.
I'm living the best of both worlds right now.
So my name is Mike Knickerbocker. I am a naval officer that's getting ready to retire. Right now, I have 3 firm clients and 2 more perspectives. I'm able to provide value across different industries because the skill set that I learned through the course, I was able to apply my own experience.
GovClose came and it was a no-brainer. I wanted some secret sauce,
This has allowed me to live in Germany. It's a little hazy today, but we can do that. You see?
Oh yeah, dude, that's beautiful.
The content, the training, it's invaluable. It's written.
And Deb, what motivated you to join the GovClose certification program?
Wow. Well, I think that wanting to work with a leader in the field, someone who understands government contracting on a deep basis and has the reputation, the experience working with you and your company was a natural.
The students that graduate our program, they go on to start their own consulting firms, winning high dollar consulting clients. They go on to land high-paying salaried positions as account executives with companies that sell to the government. I'm so proud of the people that have gone through our program. And if you are considering either a job or a business, and by the way, some of our students are doing both, as I did. They're running a consulting business and they'll have an account executive job. It's transforming their lives. It's bringing true wealth to them and their families. Back to the video.